Hello, everybody. This is Andy, and this is another session of our Salesforce Flow tips. And last time, if you watched it, I did one of these sessions with Daryl, right? Daryl Moon uh, from CRM Certify. And since then, Melody and I spent quite some time together on FlowFest competitions, and we got to know each other. At some point, I even heard Melody say something like, "Well, it turns out it's fun to work with you, Andy. I don't know what you you expected, but you'll tell us about this one a little bit later." So, yeah, my guest today is Melody from you know her from Salesforce Flowsome, and she makes fantastic videos and makes difficult concepts super easy for everybody to learn. And I share her material quite often as well, like on Twitter, on LinkedIn. It's great to have you here. So, Melody, welcome. Can you introduce yourself to us?
Of course. Thank you for inviting me, Andy. So, my name is Melody. I originally come from Taiwan and I have been living in Norway for 4 years, and now I moved to Singapore recently. And I joined the Salesforce ecosystem about 3 years ago. And I quickly fell in love with Flow. Like other things, I'm pretty good, but Flows, I'm really passionate about. Yes. So that's why I have my Salesforce Blossom. And yeah, just if I can just take this opportunity to just shout out to you, Andy, because in my early, blogging journey, you are one of the first people that really show cares, You were like reaching out and asking if there's anything you can help. And at that moment, I just thought, oh my God, Andy's so busy, but he's still willing to, reach out, show care, and also just just make me feel really comfortable and then feel understood. So that's probably why I made that comment in FlowFest.
Well, thank you very much for saying that. Well, I have a different take on competition and competition, and I've
Mm,
said that several times, and sometimes that surprises people because there are many people who develop content around flow and training
mm,
courses. The way I look at this is, uh, I, as by myself, like as a single person by myself, I cannot promote flows enough. So I think
mm,
the more is better. Like the more the merrier, right? So if we
mm,
have multiple people talking about flows and promoting the content, it is going to increase the attention on flows, and it is
mm,
eventually going to help the ecosystem. It is going to help everybody who's trying to learn flows. And
mm,
I get this question quite a bit. People will ask me, what is the one single resource that you would recommend for me to learn flows? And I will say it doesn't exist, including mine. I mean, because uh, it is such a broad area, you can get
mm,
started on it with one material, but you will have to also resort to other materials. And obviously, everybody learns differently, like
yeah.
like channel of preference is different, and the style that they are looking is a little bit different.
Mm,
So let's get started, right? So today we said we are going to talk about our own personal lives a little bit and our
yes.
hobbies. That's how you actually wanted it, right? So
Yeah.
let so let me ask you the question. And by the way, we are going to wait. Oh, no, that's out of sequence now. Wait a minute. We are going to answer your questions, by the way, in the audience. So please put your questions on chat, and we are going to see them and we are going to get to them. We are not going to be able to answer those on chat, but we are going to answer your questions here just by talking. And my first question is going to be for Melody. Who are you? Tell us about yourself. How did you get started with Salesforce and Flow? Because you just said you actually fell in love. How did that happen?
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting question. So maybe a little bit more background of how I started in the Salesforce ecosystem. So I actually started as an admin, and to be honest, I was really lucky at that time because this company was willing to hire me well, I didn't have any like experience in Salesforce. They just basically saw like me and my past working experience and believe that I have that potential to develop in Salesforce. So a lot of people will ask, oh, how can you get a job as admin? I was just like, guys, I can't really answer that question because I also got lucky myself. But I think soon, like after like a short period of time, when you are an admin, what you really want is everything to reach that equilibrium, right? You want everything to go stable and you want to run your instance smoothly. But for me, I kind of enjoy more about the period where I took on a lot of challenging tasks where I had to maybe migrate to Lightning, do a lot of implementation things. So then I just quickly decided that I actually want to work on the partner side because then I can work on more different projects and I can learn about more industries as well.
You like a bigger
So
challenge, don't you?
exactly. And I like challenges,
Yeah.
constant challenges. Yeah. It's just like when things get stable or calming down and I feel old already. Yeah. So I just joined the partner side. But then another challenge that I realized quickly is that when you are in the partner side, so as a consultant, it's actually really hard to get that visibility, right? There's just so many consultants. And one thing you can look at is maybe the trailhead badge. Now it's impossible because everyone is 5 times strangers. And then you can also look at the certificates, which will also be difficult because for starter, a lot of people got many certificates. And second is certificates essentially couldn't really reflect the whole picture of your capability. So I was just thinking, okay, I know I'm good in Salesforce. I know I'm good in Flow. How can I get myself more visibility? So I just thought, okay, Flow is the tool that I really like. I feel really passionate about. I can do that every day, all day. So how about I just start a blog writing about my learning journey for Flow and also trying to summarize the materials I have used to help other people to learn as well. So that's how I get into Salesforce and into blogging. But I kind of feel like at the moment that I started blogging, I thought I am already pretty good at Flow. But that's actually the moment I realized there's so much more to learn about Flow.
Yeah. It doesn't
Yeah.
ever end.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can always, before you talk to other people, you can always feel so confident about yourself that, okay, I think I'm pretty good at this. I think I get the full picture, but you've never stopped being surprised. It's just like so many more to learn, so many new things to catch up, and so many new knowledge. Yeah, so that's just like a interesting journey for me so far.
Great, great. Thanks for
Mm.
sharing your story. And we had Majid asking, "What's your YouTube channel for teaching flow melody?" And I displayed already your link for your website. And can you please tell everybody how to get to your YouTube channel?
Yes, so you can either search for the same name, Salesforce Flowsome, or from my website, there's supposed to be like a link that redirect you all the way to the YouTube channel.
Yes, and Mohammed quickly answered as well. Thank you very much for all the comments, everybody. So let me just introduce myself to you. The chances are, if you're watching this, you may know me. And my name is Andy, and I've been using Salesforce for more than 10 years. And I have started focusing on developing my skills on the Salesforce platform starting about 2017, 2018 timeframe. And I got my admin certification in 2018. Long time ago, I've done some coding, but after that, I've worked mainly non-technical and operations and executive jobs. And like Melody mentioned, when I started diving into the platform, I really loved Flow because I love logic, math, and all that flexibility and the power of the Flow platform. I'm I'm a platform developer one certified, but I don't really see myself coding all day with words. For some reason, I'm a visual person. I like to drag things together and then build things together using the canvas, the flow canvas, I guess. So, okay, our next question now is going to be
But actually, Andy, before this
yes.
question,
Huh.
I am also curious. Could you share a bit about like how you decided to go into blogging or making videos? Like, what's your journey on this? I'm so
Okay,
curious.
so yeah, well, there is actually uh, there is this aspect of me that many people do not realize. First of all, I'm a very, very early adopter of social platforms. And, I used to be on, interestingly enough, I used to be on social platforms even before Facebook, let's say, right? When I was back in Turkey. And at some point, I even taught a social CRM class, an elective, as part of a master's program back in Turkey. So, and I've been blogging for a very long time, but purely in Turkish about CRM technologies, CRM, customer experience, maybe the soft side of the soft skills side of customer experience in CRM. And when I first came here, I started focusing on the platform, and I saw that video channel is going to be very strong. And uh, I am a very visual person. I actually like learning on video myself. So I wanted to make content for other people like me who don't like to read very long stuff. I guess that's how I am. I prefer actually seeing how things are done. I like to experiment myself and learn. I like to break and fix. I guess that's where Salesforce Break came from. Actually, initially it was just, you could learn Salesforce concepts in your 10-minute break. That was the break part. But then it quickly turned into break and fix, I guess. So, so that's what Salesforce Break is now. So, and then I started experimenting with video. It was just a hobby. And by the way, I didn't know anything about putting videos together. The early ones are pretty bad, actually. But I have a Turkish YouTube channel, by the way, that offers a free course in Turkish language to the Turkish community who wants to learn Salesforce. It's kind of like a compact admin training, and it gets actually quite a bit of hits. And I get contact requests from Turkish people, Azerbaijan folks, about how they could break into the Salesforce ecosystem. I still do that. And then I started doing this on the English side. I wanted to really focus on something that's more specialized. I thought always the specialization is valuable. It's going to be always valuable. So that's why I chose Flow as my lane.
Mm-hmm.
And that next question now, what do you do when you're not building flows? What are your hobbies?
Wow. So I am really an introvert person, I would say. So when I don't do flows, I
When you
basically
when you
just
don't do live webcasts to like tens of people, you are introverted, right?
yeah. It's just like Andy has been asking, "Hey, do you want to do a live session?" And I have been like, "Andy, I'm not sure if I want to." But now I just like push myself out of the comfort zone. But my hobbies, I actually really like to solve puzzles. And not like what is that called? Jigsaw puzzles?
Yes.
Yeah, but not like that. I mean more puzzles in general. So like, logical puzzles, Sudoku is one of them.
Mhm.
And I like math. Like math is my favorite subject. So
Mhm.
that's just basically what I do when I'm not building flows. I solve
Did you
puzzles
jump?
all the time.
Did you jump on the Wordle bandwagon? Do you do those word puzzles?
No, no, because I am not that good with words or languages.
Hmm.
It's just like really strange. I'm better in math than in any other languages. Not any other languages. In any language than any languages. So when it comes to Wordle, I'm just like I can't.
And many people don't know you just moved right across the world, right? You moved
Yeah,
to Singapore from
yeah,
where?
Norway.
From Norway. How did
Yeah.
that go? How is that? How was that adjustment for you?
Wow. Because I say I originally come from Taiwan, right?
Yeah.
I just imagine Taiwan and Singapore will have roughly the same weather. So, but in Norway is super cold, and I was very fed up with the coldness there. So it was just really, really cold. So when I was about to move, I was thinking, okay, I can handle this. Singapore is just close to Taiwan, so
Hmm.
it's gonna be no problem. And I think the third day when I was here, I was just thinking if I should move again because it was so hot. Like
Too
I
hot?
couldn't. Yeah, it was really too hot. Like 2 minutes outdoor, then you would just start sweating all over. Yeah, so I kind of underestimated the power of hotness.
You couldn't find the balance, I guess. You'll get used to it, I would imagine. I
I
mean,
hope so.
I've been to Singapore. It's a beautiful place,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
All right, so we have a comment for you.
Mm,
Tech says, I'm a big fan of Melody's Flowsome YouTube channel. Used to learn my flows fundamental concepts during my app builder exam prep, and then provides the link. You have
thank
fans out
you.
there.
Thank you. So this comment is from Tech, right? If I'm not reading
Yes.
wrong.
The
Yes,
the
yes.
comment is from Tech, I think, replying to Majid because Majid asked for the link, and he is providing
Uh,
the link along with a compliment, which is great.
yes, I know Tech. Tech is my dear friend on the internet.
Okay, great. So, all right, let me just answer then the same question. What are my
Mm,
hobbies? Some of you may know that I've done a couple of podcast episodes, and one of them is a podcast channel run by Stacy, and Stacy invited me, and I told my story, and I told about my hobbies quite extensively, and mainly one the first and foremost, which is pickleball. It's something similar to
mm,
tennis.
mm,
It's kind of like like tennis and badminton mixed kind of thing, and it is
mm.
one of the fastest growing sports in the United States. So I'm in Florida, and the weather is good for it, so I end up playing a couple of times a week pickleball. So that's one
Mm,
of my hobbies. When I don't flow, that's what I do usually.
mm. Have you heard of the origin of pickleball? The
Yeah,
name.
I read a couple of stories about it, but I'm not sure whether they're all 100% correct. I think there are theories.
Yeah, okay. Because the first one I heard is because when they were like inventing that, they also played with a dog called Pico.
Yeah, that's one of the theories, but I'm not exactly sure because somebody said that's not entirely correct, but I don't know.
Mm,
It's an awkward name, that's for sure. But the sport is very, very much fun.
mm.
All right, next question. Now, what is the one flow tip that will help most of the audience today if they knew, and that is often overlooked? Like something obvious, but that most people don't end up using, let's say.
Yes, that's a really good question. I've been thinking what I should mention, but I actually want to mention this one is the flow bookification.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a very complex term, and it is, to be honest. So I don't think I want to deep dive into the concept of this bookification. But one of the things that I think we should remember is so when we are building record trigger flow and schedule trigger flow, we should always try to imagine we're building this flow for one record, right? It's for if one record is being up or one account is being updated, or we schedule if one account is meeting the criteria. Why I want to mention is I actually often receive questions on like, hey, my schedule flow is not working because I created a loop inside that schedule flow, and that would
Hmm.
hit the governance limits really quickly.
Hmm.
And I have to jump in and say, hey, you actually don't need to have that loop in the flow because remember you have this bookification feature. So yeah, I think this is not something that actively need to learn, but rather we have to keep it in our mind passively thinking, oh, whenever I build record trigger flow, schedule trigger flow, the bookification is there. So
That's
try
right.
to build my flow as if it's only for one record.
That's a very good tip. Yeah. I mean, because in the end, Flow is a powerful tool of automation. And what do we use automation for? Usually for doing things like multiple times, right? Not only one time. If you're doing something one time, and geeks like ourselves, like I'm sorry for saying that, but I like to think of myself as a geek, proud geek. So we actually like to automate things. So sometimes we just get carried away, and then we automate something that is done 3 times, 4 times a month. But a lot of times it's not worth the effort that you put into it, right? So that's why the the bulkification part is very important, because you need to come up with a design that can scale, that can do a lot of transactions at once. I totally agree
Yeah.
with you. So to answer that question, what I would say, I'm not going to go that technical, possibly. I would say, I guess, I like to see when I teach flows, and then when I interact with other people who are learning flows, I like to see that they can combine the admin fundamentals with flow. I value that a lot. What does that mean? Like, instead of using and trying to do everything in flow, combine the flow features with a formula field on the object, right? That gives you even bigger superpowers. Sometimes it makes things much simpler. And to build a formula field on an object, it's actually not that hard, and it's actually one of the things that many people learn first, even before automation. But once they hit the automation learning path, sometimes they forget to combine all these things together. So use the power of the platform. Once you learn where things are, try to combine all that to come up with the design that's going to address the use case in the most efficient manner.
Yeah, I totally agree. I also receive this kind of questions a lot. They would just, when they have a question, they would just want to build everything in Flow. And sometimes I will have to ask them, hey, have you considered using the out of the box feature, like auto response rules, escalation rules? Because, like you said, essentially Flow is just helping us, right? So if there's already other tools that can do the same thing that also help us, why not go there first, right? Flow is not the only and the master solution, even though it's really powerful. Yes, I
Exactly.
totally agree.
And what time is it there right now, Melody? For me, it's quite late. For you, it's breakfast time, is it?
Yes, it's exactly 12 hours apart, so 8:23 in the morning.
Okay, so we have a viewer from Australia, Melbourne. Sarah says, I love the enthusiasm for flows. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
All right, next question. So it kind of it is similar to the last question, but I want to ask you, what is a secret tip that's mostly unknown, kind of like an Easter egg type, that many people don't know, and if they knew, that would help them a lot in their flow builds.
Yeah, okay. So I actually prepared 2 tips today. One of them I am comfortable sharing, and the other one I am it's a bit personal, I think. Okay. The
Okay.
first one, the comfortable one, is actually IDS. So I think many people know about the record ID variable that
Hmm.
we can use in ScreenFlow, and that will fetch the record automatically. But that only fetch one record, right? And Salesforce actually has this secret variable that can fetch multiple records at once. And this variable is called IDS. So we actually include that in the flow challenges as well, with flow fest challenges as well. But we didn't test people on IDS, but we were trying to show people that there's this variable called IDS where we can use, for example, list view or related lists. And somehow, nobody has confirmed this, but it might be retired, it might not. But somehow it's just not documented officially.
Hmm.
So
Okay, now
yes.
you opened a can of worms here. So the folks who are watching this, they are gonna want to know more about this. Where do they go? Are you gonna write a post about this, or what's gonna happen now?
Oh, I actually have one post already about
Oh, okay.
IDS, but I do also find several other posts that also write about IDS. I think one on Force Panda as well, and then Yumi, our first FlowFest champion, knows about that as well. So I think there is a post in his blog, but I'm not entirely sure. But
Okay.
anyway, I think if people search for IDS Flow on Google, there should be several articles available.
But to just summarize and recap for everybody's benefit, the idea and the most important takeaway here is the fact that, for example, you can deploy and distribute your flow on a list view and then allow the user select multiple records, and those multiple records will be passed to your flow for processing. So that's the idea, right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct.
All right. So the other one is like if
The
I
other,
tell you I'm gonna have to kill you kind of thing, or what is it?
no. It's actually about update records. It's an actually easy concept, but um, so I actually learned this very recently myself as well, and
Okay.
then I feel a bit like shy that why didn't I know this earlier? But basically, for update records,
Yeah.
it's really common to like the most common way is to use together with another variable, right? Either a record variable or a collection.
Hmm.
And the second option you have is you can specify the condition saying that I want to update the account whose ID is blah 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 blah.
Hmm.
So before, whenever I use the specify condition, I was always updating only one record. So I would just query by ID. But it's
Hmm.
very recent that I learned that you can actually update multiple records at once, as long
Yeah.
as they all meet the criteria. And I just learned that very recently.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's something I don't use either. And I
Mm,
sometimes get confused. The other day I said, "Oh, it's not possible," I think, and then I turned around and looked at it. It's possible, but
mm,
it's actually not something that we use for partially a good reason, because if your query doesn't produce a result, then it fails, right?
mm,
So if you say, okay, I want to update the records for people who are 6 feet tall, and there are no people 6 feet tall, then actually it ends up in an error. It fails. The
mm,
whole flow fails. That's why we
mm,
actually like to usually get and then see whether we get records and then update, create. I think that's
mm,
that's why probably we never use that much. That's what I'm thinking.
mm, mm.
But that's a very good point. I don't use it. I mean, but sometimes it's quite useful. It's quite
Yeah, it
useful.
is. Mm,
Yeah. So what is the secret? I mean, there's not much of a secret, but I would say I don't think many people are using the collection um, the collection filter element
mm,
much,
mm, mm,
and
mm,
that's GA now. And the cool thing about the collection filter element is the fact that you can use in the filter criteria a formula, and that was the first amongst the likes inside Flow where we were allowed to use a formula. Now with the new release, the summer 22 release, we are going to get that also for record triggered flows, the start element filter
mm.
criteria, which is fantastic. But we've had that before that, and I don't think many people use it. It is kind of an advanced side of things, but that would be one thing that I would mention.
Definitely. Together with collection sort.
That's right. Collection sort is
Mm,
quite useful as well. So we have
mm,
a couple of comments, questions. Uh, yes, and we have Jeffrey says, so true, Andy, and I see formula as an automation tool as well. Exactly. This is referring to, I'm sure, the formula field comment. And then we
mm.
have Dharmesh who's saying, good evening. How platform event triggered flow can be debugged? What are the best practices to debug flows? Would you like to take that, comment on it, or do you want me to take that?
Maybe I can talk about the best practice to debug flows in general,
Yeah.
but I don't have much experience in platform event triggered flow. So maybe you can take on this one.
Oh, okay. I didn't even realize it talks about platform events. Now I see it. Okay. How can platform event flows can be debugged? That's a very good question. I built actually platform event triggered flows before. And yeah, I mean, I don't even know whether debug works on them because it's very difficult. What I would do myself, which is a pain in itself, is I would actually save that flow as a record triggered flow and then debug it as a record triggered flow, make sure that all the logic works, and then convert it back to a platform event triggered flow. That would be my hack. Should not be necessary, but unfortunately, we end up doing it, like in, also sometimes for schedule triggered flows I end up doing it. Schedule triggered flows offer a debug. It'll debug on the first record. It finds that fits the entry conditions, but
Mm,
sometimes that's not sufficient, and you can't really control. You cannot point the schedule triggered flow to a particular record. So
mm,
if you really want to do more than that, you end up uh, saving that as a record triggered flow or as an auto launch flow and then testing it that way. Hopefully,
mm,
with the new no code testing functionality that's coming, is still in beta. That's why I don't talk about it much. I haven't tried it that much. I will,
mm,
but it's still in beta. That's very exciting. That's very exciting, especially
mm,
I think it's going to be quite exciting once you build flows on top of flows, and then once you add a new flow, to be able to test everything together, like in Apex. Like you can have test
mm,
classes in Apex, and you want to test everything together, make sure everything works fine together. You can kind of mimic the same kind of functionality with this no-code testing. You can have all these test assertions already built and residing in the system, which will be
mm,
awesome.
mm.
So our next question now: what would you recommend to folks who are going to be learning flows in the coming days? So what should they do?
Yes, I think this is really the time to maybe break everyone from the dreams. It's like you said in the beginning, Andy, like a lot of people will ask if there's one resource that can help us learn flow really quickly. And I would love to see there is one, master resource. But the reality is there really isn't, because like you mentioned, everybody has different learning style, and also flow is such a broad concept. It's just really hard to have one single place where you can get everything that you need. And the third thing is, I do have a course review, right? And I review all the flow courses. They're all really great, but the problem is, um, they can help you to learn the flow concepts. But if you want to become super proficient in building flows, it takes practice. It takes time, practice, and takes continuous learning. Like a lot of us who's in the blogging world, we are still learning flow every day, and we're still building flows every day. It just really takes time to practice, and to be patient, and to troubleshoot, and to reflect on yourself, to think about where can I learn more, where I can improve, this kind of thing. So it really takes time. So I just want to tell people who are going to learn flow. I know everybody wants efficient way of learning. I want that too. But when it comes to flow, it really takes time and patience to practice. So just stay humble, and then just continue to learn, and always try to think about if there's any new information that you can absorb. That would be the master advice that I will give everyone.
Yes, very,
Mm,
very, very good point. And I would say it is very important that you do yourself, try and do yourself.
exactly.
This
Mm,
comment is not even related to flows in general. I talk to a lot of people who are passionate about entering into a new area, and then sometimes they ask my advice or comments, and I say, and they have a bunch of ideas. You know how we all get, we have dreams. We say, okay, well, I could be doing this, I could be doing that. Which one is the better route for me? They'll ask you. And I will say, okay, well, you can think all day long about all these options, but until you really do and try, you're never going to know whether you like it, whether you're good at it, whether you're going to be successful on that platform, whatever it is, right? It's the same thing with flows. So until you actually do and try yourself, you're not going to know whether you can do things. You can watch those videos all day long. You can read the blog posts all day long. Until you do it, you're not going to know that you can do it. And there's a really nice comment here from Rebecca. And she says, I've taken every flow trail on Trailhead in your class, Andy, and visited your website, Melody, and I found that the real learning happens with personal projects. And we'll vouch for that, right? You know, we agree with that. That's what we are saying. You just got to build stuff. And that's why I actually try and provide many different platforms that facilitates that. I mean, I don't really only do a YouTube channel. I don't only have a blog. I also have a Slack workspace, Salesforce Break Slack workspace. And if you want to get the link and join that workspace, you can go to salesforcebreak.com. You can join us. I think we are more than 500 people now, where people ask their questions every day in, day out, whether the questions are related to their personal projects and, you know, the things that they are trying on the platform or their real work situations. We try and help them. We answer them. And another good way of learning is to go on Salesforce Answers, to go on Salesforce Break Slack, to go on blogs and try to understand what the use cases and the real world problems that other people have, and try to solve them in your own Debug and answer them. You know, how many times, I'm sure you've done this so many times, you see a question and you want to help the person, you just log into your Debug and then you build it for them, right? And then you'll say, because you don't know exactly how it's built, you can't remember everything, you'll just try it yourself and you'll say, okay, this is how you do it.
Yes.
And that's the best way of learning, because I get a lot of questions. They are like, you know, well, Andy, you're teaching us a lot, but you didn't give us all the real world scenarios under the sun. Well, I can't possibly do that, even if I attempt it, but this is a better way. Just go learn other people's problems and try and help them. You'll learn in a much more efficient way. That's what I'm thinking.
That is really, really true, Andy. And also, I think many people have spotted that questions. So there are actually a lot of resources that are providing use cases, right? We have the famous automation champion. We have Jen Lee's blog. Even though she's with Salesforce right now, her blog is still there. Many use cases, and including my website as well. It was for providing use case so everybody can practice. It's not just about finding the answer you need. It's also about finding the use case that you can practice on. So I couldn't agree with you anymore. Or sorry, I couldn't agree with you more.
Okay. Yeah, we all understood. No worries. So yeah, actually you answered, I think, Majid's question that was out there already on chat. Apart from YouTube channel, what's best place a weblog to explain the flow logic in general? What about Trailhead modules? So there are many resources, automation champion, many blogs and video and written resources, and Jen Lee's old blog. Now Jen Lee is publishing videos and blog posts for Salesforce. So, you know, she is continuously producing, and many others, obviously, inside Salesforce. Jay Stedman and all the other folks are producing fantastic content. And I know that for a fact that Trailhead just hired a single person, who is 100% of the time writing new modules for flows. They put out a record triggered flow module, which is updated, and there's a full pipeline of things that are coming. Trailhead didn't have a lot of like hands-on resources for that, but it's coming. So those are the resources that you can use. But I mean, just as a general comment, sometimes I see that coming from the folks who are trying to learn flows. Be patient with us, because everybody is having difficulty trying to keep up with the changes. And maybe I should just give a shout out to the Salesforce Flow product teams right now, because they are doing a very good job. They are constantly rolling out new functionality. I mean, I spend hours and hours just to try to keep my Udemy Flow course updated, up to date, because I have to constantly shoot new modules, and I have to update because the screens are changing, and it's a continuous process. It's quite difficult.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now we have another question from a LinkedIn user. The user is not specified. While designing flows, what is best practice, especially when other older automation tools are implemented? Wait, actually, that is very similar to the question I was going to ask you anyway.
Yeah.
And that's right here, right?
Yes.
So, what do you recommend to folks who have a lot of workflow rules and process builders in their org? What do they need to do? How? When?
Yes. I actually didn't want to write an article about this, because for starter, there are a lot of articles already, and I don't think I can provide like a full picture of the migration strategy. Because one thing people are thinking is, oh, if I want to migrate my process and my workflows to Flow, it's about my flow skills. It's about how good I'm building flows and blah, 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 blah. But it's hard to answer this question, because I think flow skills or performance, any this kind of technical concerns, are actually the second priority. The most important thing you should think about is actually your business processes, because originally when we build those workflows process, we build them for a specific purpose, right? The reason why we have so many is because the constraint for the workflows and process, sometimes you couldn't build something together in one workflow or in one process. So that's why, like, throughout the years, you have like so many different things. But right now, when you're switching to Flow, because it's so powerful, you can do a lot more than just workflow and process builder. So what you should really think about is, okay, what is my original goal? What is my original purpose? Why did I design my automation like this? And then when you clarify your original purpose, your original business process, then you can start planning about your flow, right? So to me, this question is more about how you plan than how you execute, if that's making sense. I want to quote one of my favorite professors in university for statistic. So we were doing this kind of statistic model, like, the all kind of mathematical models. And then he just told us one thing to remember. He just remember one thing. It's garbage in, garbage out. So
That's
when you're
right.
migrating, yeah, exactly. So when you're migrating your workflows and process, try to review them to see if they're still fitting your business process. Is it making sense to have them separately, or does it make more sense to have them together? That's when you really need to spend your energy on the first part. And then the later part, your flow should just follow your business process. Whatever makes more sense for you to manage and structure your flows, then you should just go with that way. So I didn't spend much time on talking about, like one flow per object, or multiple flows per object, because I think that all depends on how your business is running.
Exactly. And I think that answer is perfect. So I don't have anything else to add. Seriously. So for the sake of time, I'm going to continue. There is another good question here. And it says, can you please state major difference between flows and Apex? What to prefer, flow over Apex? This is a very good question, and it's almost impossible to answer in a general context. But I'm going to take this one initially, and then please, Melody, also add to this. But this is, I know you're looking for an answer, so I'm going to give you a couple of areas where one trumps the other, like one is better than the other. Number one, if you are looking to build a quick screen interaction, right? So you want to ask the user to enter information, update information, and then you want to build logic around it, and then do a create update records or something like that. I think you're going to find Flow is going to be much easier and faster to distribute than anything that you're going to be doing with Apex and Lightning Web Components, right? So that's going to be a little bit harder in the grand scheme of things. It's a very quick solution that way. So that's an area I would take Flows over the alternative any day. Obviously, Flows can't do everything, though. If you need something enhanced, you still want to go to Apex or Lightning Web Component route. Another thing that I often tell people to take Apex Overflow, like on the flip side, is once you start talking about use cases where I want to loop related records and then loop the related records of those related records and then try to match them and see if those match and then find differences in once you start talking about things like that, I can bet you are going to go over the 2000 elements maximum executed in one flow interview. So you can forget about it. You can just go to the Apex side, and there are several reasons for that. Obviously, Apex has governance limits too, but Apex's SACWell is much more powerful than the get that you're going to find in Flow. And the power of traversing to the related records and working with them is going to be very, very important for you once you're dealing with these kinds of use cases. Those are the situations where I usually say go Apex, right? So those are two examples, but obviously this has to be evaluated based on use cases. It's very difficult or almost impossible to make a blanket statement about this. Go ahead, Melody, please add.
Yes. And if I could easily summarize this question, I think instead of thinking about choosing Flow and Apex, we can just think about choosing Workflow and Apex. Like, why do we use Workflow before than using Apex? And the most important reason is because Workflow is a lot easier to do, right? So when we are talking about Flow and Apex, even though Flow is complex, but in a sense, it's still easier than Apex. So because Flow is the declarative tool and Apex is a programmatic tool, right? So if today you have a programmer that you are so sure that 100% of the time you will have a very skilled Salesforce developer to be in your org, then I have no problem with you like using Apex for everything, as long as you can keep like a clean structure for your org. But the reason why we have Flow is because most of the case, the person running the org might be an admin, right? And this person also has to communicate with other business owners. So if you wanted like admin without like full developer background, it's impossible for them to just go through Apex and then just try to comb through what is the logic behind it. So I would say it depends on first your Salesforce team, the management team, and second it depends on like how easy you want to manage your automation, to be honest. So if
ease of maintenance over time, right?
Exactly. So with Flow, it will be a lot easier to read and to manage, but for Apex, it will be more powerful. So I think it all depends on how you choose in your org. Like, what is your Salesforce management strategy?
That's a very good point. Cost of ownership, let's say, in in money aspect and also in practicality aspect, let's say. And that very much depends on what kind of skill set you have in-house, or whether you have access to external resources who can help you with that. Because I can guarantee you one thing: whatever you build is not going to stay the same way forever. You will have to change it, you will have to modify it, you will have to test it with the new functionality that's coming with releases, and you will have to plan for that.
Yeah.
And Rebecca reminds me, I'm in so many things I sometimes forget myself. Yeah, I have a newsletter too that I put out every week. So I just sent actually an issue that was about the collection sort and collection filter. So if you want to sign up for that, go to salesforcebreak.com, and then you'll get one issue every week, fully educational, no spam. I'm not selling you anything. So, okay, another comment. thank you, Andy, for updating the Udemy course. Any particular use case for a Flow orchestrator? I presented at Texas Streaming about the orchestrator. I'm going to present in Atlanta, Southeast Streaming soon. Uh, this month, actually, actually, it's next month, right? So June. In June, around the 20th, I think I'm presenting. And after that, I'm going to put that out probably on YouTube for everybody to see. I don't see orchestrator being part of the Udemy course as it is right now. It will have to be a separate course, but I honestly don't have the bandwidth to create another one. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but we'll see. But orchestrator is promising and exciting technology. So can Flow work with Omni Studio, or is there a use case for such combination? I've never touched Omni Studio, but I expect all the automation under the platform to come together at some point under the Flow leadership. That's what I expect. Have you done anything with Omni Studio, Melody?
No.
No, I wish I did, but no, I have not touched it. Another question. Hello, Andy and Melody. What are you most excited about with Flows with the upcoming summer release, and why? Very good question. Thank you. LinkedIn user.
The most exciting one for me would definitely be the formula entry criteria.
That's right.
Yeah, I had the period where I was thinking, I want to compare if I let every records in and I filtered them using a decision element in the front, compared to I filter records right in the start element, and what will be the differences in terms of performance. And I just got like really crazy into the numbers and the seconds, and I just got myself, like super confused. I still haven't had like proper results for that experiment, because there's a lot of things that we couldn't do in the start element before summer 22, and I was just really really bugged by that. So I'm just really looking forward to the formula start entry, so
Yeah.
now I can just leave this experiment behind.
I'm really excited about check syntax button, and I hope that that's going to be available everywhere where we have the formula inside Flow, because right now it's a little bit difficult when you're building
Yeah.
formulas. You experience problems where you don't even know what's wrong with that. I would agree with that. I say, well, that's one thing that's very exciting, and I talk about this a lot. I think Slack stuff is very exciting. I mean, I actually want to take Slack and Salesforce, and I kind of want to live where they intersect. I can live there for the rest of my life. I don't have to go anywhere else. I don't know why I'm so much excited about this, but yeah, I'm quite excited about that. So the posting to Slack from Salesforce, the flexibility and the functionality, and also the screen flows on Slack. Apparently, the functionality is quite limited for now, but still, once that functionality is enhanced, imagine what we can do.
Yeah.
And yes, a very good point. June is this month for Melody. Yes, you are in June right now, right, Melody? We are not in June yet.
Oh yes,
Or
yes, yes.
May
That's
31st.
correct. That is correct.
So from one
yes.
month to another.
Yes. So we have a line in between us on the screen. This is the line of May and June.
That's very good. That's very good. So, okay, now Marshall says, is there enough need for a consultant to focus on Flow? Now, I'll say this is already ripe. It's there. I think you can do, if you can sell yourself, if you're good at selling yourself, you can do almost full-time just flows, I would imagine. Your challenge is going to be to find all these different projects to go to, but you can do that, I would imagine. And for that, I recommend you contact Ohanali team, the team that we do FlowFest with, Eric and Warren, right? Warren and Eric. So that team has a platform where you can put your skills like on display, and then you can get those projects. I'm pretty sure. What do you think about this, Melody?
I really wish it is true, because that's what I would want to do. but at least I can share my view in the APAC area. I think it's gonna be a bit difficult to have, one dedicated consultant focusing on flow. There are several reasons. One reason being Salesforce in APAC is still not as strong as, like US, for example. And also second thing is the workflow process builder migration is a one-time thing, right? So once you finish, then you don't have any workflow and process builder anymore. So in this period, when they're retiring workflow and process builder, there might be a need for consultants to focusing on the migration. But once that period passes, then it will be gone. The opportunity is not sustainable. So I wish it will be the case in the future, but we will have to see.
Okay. Well, we don't have to agree on everything, so that's why we have this together. But I think there are like slightly different views here. But but we'll see. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm
If
a little bit
Andy,
more optimistic.
if Andy, you find any like opportunities like this, also remember to reach out to me.
Okay. Well, then you said it. I'll have to think about it and maybe set this up, right?
Oh, this is live session. I hope my bosses are not watching.
All right.
Just
So
joking.
another question from Tech, and I see Subflows as something built for executing common tasks. What other requirements, use cases will you consider that will make you decide to build Subflows? And I again have a slightly different view with that. I do not build a subflow unless I know I definitely am going to reuse it. That's my take on it. Everybody does it differently. And what do you think, Melody?
I'm totally aligned with you. I think one thing is like Subflow, it is for common task. And another reason is people want to just create one record trigger flow per object, right? That's why they will use many subflows. But for me, I see flow and Apex are structured differently. So when it comes to flow, I don't prefer to use subflows.
Okay. Just a reminder, we are nearing to the end of the hour, so enter your last questions, please. Amos, I see your question, but I don't remember exactly what you're asking about, so I cannot provide an answer. Can you please expand on that? And Melody, you're so funny, says Julia.
Thank you, Julia. I don't see myself as funny, but thank you.
Will either of you be presenting at Dreamforce this year? Well, I don't know. It has are the applications open now? Can we submit a proposal for that, or I have no idea?
I don't even know if I can go. I really want to go.
Ooh.
Oh.
That's
I haven't.
I'm not sure if I'm gonna go either, but I mean, if there is a proposal process, if that's possible, maybe I'll submit something, but I have not heard anything yet about accepting proposals. But thanks for asking. That shows interest, and I'm truly flattered. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And Darina, will we get functionality to render screen components based on data in another component on the same screen without saving, like Visualforce render and re-render? I think this functionality is already being worked on, and preliminary functionalities is already there. What do they call them? Interactions, interactive components, interactions, something
Yeah.
like
Dynamic
dynamic
interaction.
interactions. Bravo. Yes, dynamic
Is it?
interactions. Yes.
Yeah.
So what the future there? I don't know when the future is going to come. I don't work for Salesforce, but let me just say, the popular term, forward-looking statements, right? But so the future there is supposed to be on the page. You're going to have a Lightning Web component, and then possibly a screen flow, and then you're going to have all these interact with each other. And I think they had preliminary demos that did that already, but I don't know exactly what the status is, and how much how broad of the implementation scope is right now.
The information I got are all from official Salesforce.com. So they did mention a lot about this, like interactions, string
Yes.
interaction. But right now, I think it's only for custom components. So
Yes.
definitely take a look on the official sf.com as well.
Yes, Darina, definitely Google. That's what we all
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
So Google
Yes.
for dynamic interactions. I think you'll see. So
Mm.
I don't even know what happened to the time because we are at the end of the hour. But I want to thank you so much, Melody, for doing this with me. I know this is not that easy for you, but I don't know, your nervousness doesn't come across at all. So this was a fantastic chat together, and
Thank you,
hopefully,
Andy.
hopefully we'll do that again. And don't ever slow down with your content because we love your content.
Thank you so much, Andy, and thank you, everyone.
All right, have a great day, everyone, and see you soon, hopefully.
Yes. Bye bye. Have a great
Bye bye.
day.
Bye bye.